achieved, we've achieved without any sort of cutback on refunds and drawback. The other thing is on customs, I just want to clarify, there's a slight change in methodology of computing revenue this year because we've started counting revenue paid through scripts towards customs revenue. You would be aware that we've automated the entire process of script generation and scrolling out of export benefits under ROTEP, ROSC, TAIL and other export incentive schemes. But even if allowance were made for that and we were to compare like to like, there's a very healthy growth of almost 18 to 19% in customs revenues compared to last year. So that's another point I wanted to make. For indirect taxes, the sectoral dimension is also important. So I thought I'll just give a sense of which are the major sectors which accounted for the robustness in revenue. And in customs, we've had good growth in gold, edible oils. Please remember that the cut in edible oil duty came in middle of the year. So the initial part of the year we had good growth, but overall there's been quite a sharp drop in revenue from edible oils. Mobile phones and motor vehicles, and these are the four broad sectors where we've had good growth in revenue. On the GST side, the major contributors were iron and steel, vehicles, that's automobiles, tobacco, cement. In services, we've had very good growth in financial services, IT and management services. So I thought I'll just add that too. Thank you.
Big question. I think, and I would request each of you to introduce yourself also in the organization. We can start with Tulsi.
So Tulsi Japaria, this side from CNBC TV. When we talk of the healthy growth, especially on the direct taxes, do you look at sustaining this growth? Because after a gap of 2 years is when we are seeing this growth. Do you think it was because of a low base or maybe a revision? Do you look at sustaining this growth? Secondly, on GST front, we are looking at revenue rate rationalization, to be precise, at a revenue neutral rate. Don't you think a hike in rate would mean a further hike in taxes? So how would we be able to compare then the GST collections on that front?
So on the first part of your question, whether we'll see the same growth, I would say that a lot of efforts were made on this side. For example, the chairman CBDT was very humble and he didn't tell you that this time we had a hitch in the portal, but at the same time, while we had that hitch, we released another utility taking a risk that might work or not work, which showed what are the financial transactions of various people. So a lot of technology has been used where GST figures are now matched with the income tax figures and the compliances are being ensured, as was pointed out in the presentation. So all this has actually resulted in better compliance and better revenues both on the direct and indirect taxes. I would say that be very upfront with you to say that to expect a similar growth in the next year I would not be giving you the correct picture. So we'll see how does it go. Let's see, 15th of June will give us the first idea on the direct taxes. On the second part of GST, I think let's wait. You asked a very hypothetical question. If this happens, then what will happen? Let's see what happens.
Gentleman in the blue shirt.
Hi, sir. I'm Shubham from the trade. Sir, given that we've already reached the FY23B levels on the gross tax side, the growth rate that we assume for FY23 is roughly about 10%. So if we were to take that growth rate on these figures, on this base, we're already high by some 2.7 lakh crore for next year. So is that a fair assumption that the minimum that we'll get more for FY23 is 2.5 lakh crore or more? And the second is, if that's the space that's created next year, is the government ready to bite the bullet on excise duty cut to give relief to consumers?
You had to ask a roundabout question in a roundabout manner.
If you could share the net direct tax collections, tax collections.
Okay. So on the first part, you are saying that we have reached a figure of say 27.07 and the budgeted target for the next year is a little higher than this. Let me also say to you is my own analysis of the indirect taxes is that while direct taxes are a secular growth, in the sense whatever changes we make in any budget, still we have to ensure that it has. On the indirect taxes, because a single item can have a major impact. For example, the excise duties got us a lot of revenue, but we have sacrificed the excise duties last year. Similarly, on the customs, it will depend on, customs were very low if you go back 4-5 years ago. And now the customs has again gone up. But again, we have reduced the duties on edible oil and on pulses. So my expectation is that the customs duty would even come down from the figure that we have mentioned in the budget estimates. But I take your point that obviously if we don't achieve more than what we have budgeted for, I think we are not doing our job. But how much will it be? We'll see. We'll come to you and disclose to you when the right time comes. On the excise duty reduction on petroleum products, if and when we do it, we'll communicate to you.
Sir, but what is the view of the revenue department?
I think the lady here, my colleague here is organizing it. Let her organize it.
I'm just that one last bit on the net tax.
Can we have another question?
We'll give it to you. We'll give it.
Answer?
Yeah, I'm Ansel from Indian Express. Sir, two questions. One about the corporate tax numbers. There's a good increase in it. Is there a split about the numbers coming from the new units set up after in the new corporate tax regime, like sir attributed the increase to the new regime? And secondly, about the GST numbers also, the difference that we saw that it's closing down between GSTR 1 and 3B. So how does it reflect the improvement in curbing fake invoices?
So on the first point, which was whether the new units, I would suggest you go through. We've answered a unstart question on that with details only last week.
Yes, sir.
So you better have a look at that. I don't remember the figures, but I would also like to caution you that when you read those figures, you should also see that not every new manufacturing unit will come under the 15% regime. They may not take that regime because they want to take exemptions. So we have given you exact numbers and everything over there. So I would request that you could have a look at that. And the second part was about
GSTR 1 and 3, the gap narrowing down, reflecting curbing of fake invoices.
So fake invoices, I would say, my own presumption is that I get a report twice a week. It's not that the fake invoices are not there, they are there, but these compliances that have been enforced have, in my view, definitely reduced the fake invoice problem. But to say that it is gone, I am not too sure. I'll just request Mr. Johri to add anything if he wants.
So I think what we try to do is to make it more difficult and less profitable or viable for a person to indulge in issuance of fake invoices. And for that we made many legal changes that you're aware of. Sequential filing of returns, not allowing you to file a GSTR 1 unless you file the GSTR 3B for the previous month, means that the time period which is available for anyone to game the system is very small now. So although as the Secretary said, we continue to detect cases of fake invoices, and I don't think we'll be able to eliminate it totally ever. But our expectation is that with all this closing in, and that is reflected in better return filing and payment discipline, I think the avenue for issuing fake invoices will perhaps go down.
Sir, can I intervene on the number on the corporate tax surge? The corporate return filing for this year is at 9.86 lakh crores, which was 9.24 lakh crores last year. Okay, and the growth of around 60,000 or more than 60,000. It also tells a tale, right? Corporate tax collections, how much the surge in the corporate tax collection, how much it is true because of the new filings. Because the 60,000 that has not happened over a period of time. It was in the range of 30,000, 40,000. Now it is 60,000. So those numbers will also, when they are crunched later on, will also give us some idea as to the increase in the corporate tax collection through those returns also.
Sir Prashant. Sir, the direct tax collection target for next year has already been exceeded. Indirect tax collection target for next year is only sort of 35 or 40,000 crore. In the budget, you have projected a growth of about 9% from this year RE to B next year. Can we assume that you will still go by that kind of growth, 9% or 10% in GTR for next year, but this year?
Prasanta, let me also say this. A general figure, ballpark figure comes in the articles, so it doesn't give the true picture. Now let me explain to you why it was 9.6%. I think I've explained it earlier also. The excise duty is supposed to be going down this year because there was a reduction in the diesel and oil excise duty by 10 rupees and 5 rupees. So that went down. So if that goes down, if you take away the excise duty, the increase was almost 14% plus in the other taxes. And as I have explained to you that we were hoping that the customs duty on edible oils would come back, but it has not come back. So the customs duty on edible oils also will not be that much as we were expecting. So given that figure, I don't think that there was anywhere a deliberate attempt on our part to show it lower. So there was a logic to it and we wanted to explain that logic. Thirdly, the Omicron wave had hit at that time while we were preparing the budget. So in that sense, we have to be very careful when we are preparing the budget because it can so happen like I can over-project the revenue, and once I over-project the revenue, the expenditure will also go up by that much. Then the revenue will not come. Revenue is not in my hands, not in the hands of the government, but the expenditure will happen. So then it creates another kind of a problem. So one has to see it in that context that what has happened. I have answered that question, I think, which Shubham raised, that what will it be. So it will be definitely more. By how much more? You do the articles. I'll keep those articles to put it back to you like I put it back to you. Nobody told me that out of 22 lakh crores you will achieve 27. Nobody mentioned this. So I'm as good or as bad as the best of the economists who are commenting on me.
Madam, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, coming from business standards. My question was that individual, is there any data maintaining where the personal individual taxes shift to new regime? And you said on the corporate side it's 60% or something, but the individual side, what is like any filing the data you mean?
So Shimi, I think I've answered this question earlier also. No. Thanks to the portal issue, we are still grappling with this kind of analytic data, but we'll get it soon. But I can say it upfront that the numbers who would have gone into that would not be very large, because you can see from your own returns whether you filed it under the new regime or at the old regime. Basically, we'll have to do some changes there, which I have already mentioned in one of my earlier interactions with the media, that we'll have to make some more changes there to get to people to come in the new regime. We'll have to make it more
So on the corporate, any absolute number of filings, just percentage-wise, 60% or above percent?
sorry.
On the corporate new regime, and how many corporates should be to new?
I've told you, you've answered an unstart question on that.
And on the, are you eyeing like 1.4 to already be reached? So are you eyeing 2 trillion like by second half
1.4 to what?
on the GST?
Huh? Let's see.
Girish from Mint.
Congratulations for the outstanding performance. So I have two questions. One on the direct tax side. In the past, the government had made this commitment that as revenue collections grow, government may consider reducing the tax rates. Is this the right time to take a fresh look at that commitment? And also on the indirect tax side, the fact that GST collections are growing faster than the economic growth rate. The case for tax rate rationalization
So on the first part, I'll say to you that we have just finished this budget. Let's wait for some time. It's very premature for me to say this happens only. It requires an amendment in the Act. So I think you will have to have some patience for that. On the GST rationalization also, I said, let the Bomai committee give its report. Let the council take a view on
One follow-up
I think we can go to the
that.
next
Yeah,
person, then-
I'm sorry. I've just got a message that I'll have to leave in about 10 or maximum 10 minutes. So please don't repeat the questions.
Sunil Prabhu.
You have been talking a lot about two issues which I want. I know one will be beyond your pay grade because you'll have to wait for the GST Council, but just as a off the record, if you can just think about the 5 years period of the GST for states, which they had not been giving exemption. They want that to be increased. Can that be looked at as GST Council? Is that possible? Because the law says 5 years. That compensation says. So can you look at that? The second issue is you've been talking a lot about, look at the entire capital gains issue. What exactly are you intending? What are you trying to do on that?
So, Sunil, my answer is the same for you. On the first part, okay. The first part was, sorry.
GST compensation.
So I think we have also answered that question a number of times in this parliament. In the parliament. So I think how will I change it from yesterday to today? The second part is capital gains. I've already mentioned it's a little complex, but let's see. We have some time to think over it because the next budget is for February of 23.
So what exactly do you want to do?
Simplify.
Sir, this is Nirbhay from UNI. My question is related to tax evasion. This Hero Motocorp was raided recently and then the statement came.
Can I request that the questions be limited to the revenues? Let's not the headline be taken by anything else. You can take a separate time from me and come and speak to me.
Tarun.
सर तरुण शर्मा फ्रॉम सी बिजनेस सर आपने कहा कि कस्टम ड्यूटीज अगर आपका वापस नहीं आ पाई एक्साइज ड्यूटी सर क्या रिस्क कहाँ से मिटिगेट हो पाएगा जो इस साल जहाँ से हमें इस साल रेवेन्यू आया कौन से ऐसे सेक्टर्स होंगे 2022-23 के लिए जहाँ से हम रेवेन्यू की उम्मीद कर सकते हैं कि इस साल IT से चला लेकिन नेक्स्ट हम देख रहे हैं कि
आपका जवाब देने के लिए डायरेक्ट टैक्सेस इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस में हम GST को इम्प्रूव कर रहे हैं अभी थोड़ा बहुत और करेंगे इम्प्रूव तो देखते हैं उसमें क्या आएगा सेक्टर्स में आई थिंक एनालिसिस किया है आपने शायद कुछ बताया है सो बट आई थिंक दैट्स वेरी इट विल डिपेंड ऑन हाउ द इकोनॉमी डज हाउ दो सेक्टर्स डू इन द इकोनॉमी वी फॉलो दैट पाथ दैट इज व्हाई आवर होल थिंग इज बेस्ड ऑन कि हम टैक्स टू GDP रेशियो क्या है जैसे GDP बढ़ेगा तो टैक्स बढ़ेगा अगर GDP नहीं बढ़ेगा तो टैक्स नहीं बढ़ेगा और दूसरा बॉयंसी है कि GDP इतना अच्छा कर रहा है हम इस लेवल पे हैं आज डेवलपमेंट स्टेज में तो क्या हम उससे बेटर कर सकते हैं
SKT लास्ट ईयर काफी अच्छा परफॉर्म किया था IPOs बिजनेस तो सर आपको उम्मीद है इस साल भी वहाँ एक अच्छा कलेक्शन
थैंक यू तरुण आपने मुझे याद दिलाया इस बार जो डायरेक्ट टैक्स रेवेन्यू ज़्यादा आया उसका एक श्रेय कैपिटल गेन्स को भी जाता है और कैपिटल गेन्स डिपेंड करेगा आपका कैपिटल मार्केट्स के बिहेवियर पे अगर कैपिटल मार्केट्स का अच्छा रहेगा तो अच्छा रेवेन्यू आएगा अगर नहीं रहेगा तो नहीं आएगा कम भी हो जाएगा तो ये भी एक इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है जो क्वेश्चन प्रशांत ने पूछा शुभम ने पूछा कि कैसा रहेगा तो ये सब फैक्टर्स भी रहते हैं जब हम सोचते हैं कि अगले साल का रेवेन्यू कैसे रहेगा तो ये है
Sir, I'm Meghna Mittal now. April has always been a month of very good GST revenues. Last year also we saw record GST revenue in last April. So are we looking at surpassing the current GST record that we have in the month of April?
Today is what, 8th? Wait for 22 days. We'll see.
So
one last question. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sir, you have been fairly realistic in your budget estimate, but how worrisome is the current situation given this Russian crisis, Ukraine crisis? So how worrisome is that situation?
So good you asked that question. That is another answer to a lot of your queries that you raised. So we have to keep that all into account. So once it is, let's see if the economy, effect of that on the economy is not as much. we'll be able to do it. It depends on how the economy, how the commodity prices go up, how the sales go up, what happens in supply chains of the thing. So it is worrisome. If one says that it is not worrisome, it is not true. Can we end it?
Thank you. I think
I actually, there's my FM and another minister are waiting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to everyone for being here.
Ma'am, can you we give the copy of the presentation on mail?
Yes.
And can you circulate it to
Yes.
everybody?
And the press release.
Yeah, yeah.